Thank you so much, Anne, for that really nice introduction. And thanks to all of you for being here. I'm so happy to see each and every one of you because you are the individuals that allow the MMRF to lead. And you are the people that make all of our progress possible. And I am always amazed when I think of 20 years ago that I was diagnosed, what it looks like today. And in all honesty, back then, people really weren't talking about cancer that much. And it was a really sad time, and it was a really, really lonely time. And now when I get up in the morning and I get on my treadmill, I start to look at the TV set and I go, oh my God, here's an ad for Memorial Sloan Kettering, MD Anderson, Mount Sinai. They're all making progress in cancer. They're all using the word cure. I also see an abundance of ads that are actually educating me from Cancer Treatment Centers of America, reminding me I should get a second opinion, I should have a navigator, and they're working on precision medicine. And then I turn on my computer and I am getting all kinds of emails and information from two initiatives that I actually work with. One is President Obama's Precision Medicine Initiative, and the other is Vice President Biden's Moonshot. So I feel like as cancer patients and even just regular consumers, we're actually getting so much information on the progress of cancer. And it really is an incredible time. But I will tell you, after 20 years, I still lie awake at night. Many, many nights I lie awake at night, and it's because of this chart. And when you look at this chart, what you'll see in the orange line is the average 5-year survival of our patients across all cancers. And what you see is when you get out to the one end with prostate cancer and breast, we do okay. But when you have some of the more uncommon cancers like pancreatic, metastatic melanoma, some of the lung cancers, when you're looking at liver or stomach, or if you're one of the patients that has high-risk multiple myeloma, if you're one of those patients that didn't respond to anything, if you're one of those myeloma patients who cannot get a long duration from any treatment, I lie awake at night for you, every night for you, because I worry and I know that our job is not yet done. So I always say to everybody in the myeloma space, this is no time for complacency. No time at all for complacency. But it is an amazing, amazing time of transformation. I was hearing a speech from this amazing man at the Alexandria Summit last week, Jeff Huber. He runs CEO of Grail, a great new diagnostic company. And he said, innovation happens at intersections. And I agree so much with him because when you look at this slide right here, you see on the science side, genomic sequencing, because it is affordable now, becoming more affordable, it's done at academic centers, but now starting to get done at the community. Immunology, taking off like we've never seen before. But then you move over to the technology side, and we as patients, we see this part too, where now we have portals, and we can actually go in and we see all of our data is in there for the past, for me, many, many years. And all of our data is digitized. And then hopefully that data gets shared in the cloud. So again, revolutionary. And then you think about us as patients, and if we have questions and we need updates on what's going on, I can find so many myeloma experts on Twitter, literally sending me their most recent publications and in social media. So the world has changed, and it truly is this incredible transformative time. Now, what's so amazing about the MMRF is that we have always been very diligent about studying the landscape and looking for every trend that is going on out there and making sure that everything we do is to leverage off that. And that's why this little teeny tiny cancer has made the most significant strides of almost any cancer today. And the data says it all, which is we've had 10 drugs approved, thanks to many people in this room, in 10 years, where it used to be it takes 10 years to get one drug approved. We've increased 5-year survival by 40%. And we've tripled the lifespan of our patients from 3 years when I was diagnosed to 8 or 9 years today. And why? How have we all been able to do that? Well, we took 15 to 20 years of really, really hard work. And I always smile because we put it into 3 simple boxes. But we had to do that because we wanted everybody to know what our precision medicine model really looks like. And what you really need to know from this is it's all about data. In the world of precision medicine, it's all about data. You need an abundance of it, and it has to be the highest quality you can get. And once you get that data, you have to make sure that you are standardizing it, that you are putting it in the public domain, and you are putting it in a way that it's visually appealing for every scientist, patient, everybody to work on. And in that situation, you want all of your outside partners like GNS Health and others to come in and start analyzing the data for us. So we have many people doing it and generating insights. As those insights come together for us, we have to move them to the clinic, which we're the only organization that has our own clinical network. As Anne said, has already conducted 70 phase 1 and 2 trials with almost 20 going on right now. That doesn't happen in most cancers. Now, cornerstone of that precision medicine model that I just showed you is the COMPASS study. And I smile about this too, because 5 or 6 years ago, we were all in a room together, like look at Suzanne and others, and we were saying, so we're really upset that nobody's sharing data. And if we can't get everybody else to share data, maybe we have to generate our own data set. So we knew it would cost over $40 million to do this, because back then, genomic sequencing was even more expensive. And we had to go to our board and all of our investors, many of you are here in the room today, and we had to say, we cannot get the COMPASS study started until you can promise us the funding. And God bless all of you, because now it's 5 years later, and when everybody said, you'll never get that first patient enrolled, you're asking them to give tissue at their most vulnerable time, right at diagnosis. You're not going to get academic centers to actually take that data and put it all in the public domain. And where are you going to find the IT systems that will make this all work? How's it going to come together? Well, it's 5 years later. We've over-enrolled the study, and it is generating insights every single day. So I give a round of applause to all of you who took a chance on all of us and said, yes, the MMRF is not just a funder. We are a doer. We take the risk of saying, it's scary. Like, we're gonna do a $40 million study and do it out of our offices? That's scary. Foundations don't do that. But we did, because you guys all believed in us. So here we are. And I always say to everybody, you have to have a vision of where you want to go. It's great we did COMPASS. But I always look at the team and I go, we started that 5 years ago, so we can have a round of applause today. What are we doing now that we're going to be applauding in 3 to 5 years? And it's all on this slide. And I'm going to explain it to you because it's a little confusing. But when I said to you in that left-hand box, which looks a little different now, it's all about data, I really mean that. So our first study was a genomic initiative. The second one was COMPASS. But as we were doing COMPASS, which is newly diagnosed patients, we also realized we still have to get as much relapse refractory data as we possibly can, as fast as we can, because we still had so many patients that were saying, I'm petrified of relapse. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I get that. Like, I understand that as a patient myself. So we just put several $1 million into a very specific relapse refractory program so we could download that data as well. But in addition to that, we also need every single myeloma patient connected to the MMRF. And we have many patients connected through their email, their telephone numbers. Many patients have given us genomic sequencing. They've given us their clinical data. We don't care. We want everybody connected. Why? Because if you give us your email, your phone number, we can at least get to you for a clinical trial. If you start to give us your clinical data, we can start to understand how everybody's using the 10 drugs that have been approved. If you give us your genomic data, we can do more to identify new targets. So we need everybody in. To do that, when there's so many patients all over the world now, we have to make a major investment in a registry, but so much bigger and bolder than a registry, because we're going to go really strong on all of the marketing and effort that it takes to get every patient engaged with us. In addition, there are a lot of groups that have their own data. Dana-Farber has data, Mount Sinai has data, Sloan Kettering has data. We still need to make sure we know what their data sets look like and we get them to share with us. In a world of EHRs, we need to make sure that we can share everybody's EHRs, and we keep moving those data sets out. If you standardize them and you change the incentive systems to get everybody to share, you will win. Like, we will find cures faster, but this is super hard to do. In the middle, I told you that we pushed every bit of data we get into one area where the MMRF has it. And it's not that we need to have control or own data. It's just that we know we'll put it in the public domain. So we're the trusted third party that wants to bring it all together. Paul and the team have to spend millions of understanding who is the best data company that can actually do every bit of that for us. Because we have that right now, but it needs to be so much better if you're going to build a world like this. And then we also have data analytic companies, but we're talking every day, is it IBM Watson? Is it Coda? It's also GNS, but there's so many analytic companies coming out there. Why are we not working with all of them? There's nothing to lose by working with everybody. And that's part of the focus we have to have too. But again, all of that takes funding. It's not like IBM Watson calls and says, well, okay, we'll just go do this for you for free. But they all want our data set because it's probably one of the best data sets in the country today. As all of that happens, we then have to move everything to the MMRC. And it takes us several millions of dollars to run our MMRC every year just to keep 20 trials going. You can imagine that's expensive. But as we start to build out master protocols, and I'll show you that, it becomes even more expensive. So these are all things that we have to keep moving forward. Why am I a believer that our 3-year plan will work? And that if we have the investment, it will happen? Because we've already proven that we know how to do a lot of this. Back in 2011, in our very first genomic initiative, we identified BRAF. We were the first ones to identify that with the Broad Institute. It's a melanoma target. We put several patients on it through the clinicians. We found out there was a decent response, but we also found out not as good. Why? There was another pathway implicated. We found that out through our COMPASS study, and now we're doing a combination trial for BRAF patients. So if you're a myeloma patient and you're a BRAF patient, you want to know that we have that, and that we're going to have a combination trial for you. If you're in our database, we find you, we accrue the trial, and things happen so much faster in precision medicine. If you're a BRAF patient, that's great. But if you're not a BRAF patient, you want to know, well, what do I have that the MMRF is working on for me right now? So 50% of myeloma patients have an actionable target with a drug today. That's where we have to focus of getting insights to the clinic. And there are other patients, the other 50%, that still don't know what they have, and that's why we keep looking at COMPASS and working with other organizations to say, there are targets still out there that we don't know that we have to get to pharma and biotech companies. And that's why the data becomes so important. On clinical trials, in 3 years, they will look nothing like they look today. It is the most inefficient system you have ever seen. 90% of trials don't ever finish. Don't get enrolled. We're all smiling, because everybody, the clinicians, we all know, patients have no idea. It is so inefficient. By the time clinical trials get off the ground, it's taken so long to get the protocol done, there's already a different drug out there. It's insane. So what has to happen is, as you move through, you have to work directly with the FDA to understand, what does innovative clinical trial design look like? Because at the end of the day, you want to know, if you have a mutation and there's a drug for that mutation, put the right patient in the trial, put them on the right combination of drugs for the first time, and then do we really have to keep doing huge phase 3s? Can't we find a better way to work with everybody to say, let's do very precision-based trials? The FDA is open to it. Our team is working directly with the head of FDA. The head of FDA's mother has multiple myeloma. We have great connections, and this is where we have to go. It will take time. It will take money. A master protocol to do it well is in the tens of millions of dollars. But the MMRF has to get this done. We have to get this done. What I also think is so compelling about things we did historically that still work for us today is that, as a patient myself, whenever I'm watching things, I go, well, I know what my genome is, I know what drugs are coming down the pike, but I'm hearing so much great stuff about immunotherapy. Like, well, what do I do? I so want that in the portfolio, and yet we don't know which immune drugs are working for which patients. Again, it's another precision medicine quagmire. But now everybody's coming back to the MMRF. Why? Because we have the tissue bank from the COMPASS study. And while, yes, when we all sequenced the patients, and many of our investigators are here from COMPASS, they did that and they looked at the DNA and they sequenced it, but the aspirate all of our aspirates that we give up for those bone marrow biopsies also carry your immune cells. We have those banked. We can go back now in the COMPASS study and literally help every pharma and biotech company understand what's really going on in immunotherapy and start to develop precision medicine in that field too. And it's not to say it won't cost money, it will, but we will get there. And then we can come back and look at all of you and say, you need this genomic drug, and you need this immune drug, and we're going to put you in the right trial to get it done. And that's what it has to look like in 3 to 5 years. And it's really hard to do. But I think we can do it. And the reason that I'm so committed to it, as everybody on the MMRF team is all of our scientists and clinicians that are here today, is because we have one job. And this is what we think about every single night when we go to sleep. Did we answer your question? When you're a patient and you're in the middle of the night and you're lying awake and you're wondering, did I do it right? We need to be able to tell you that you did. So when we were starting to do our early work on COMPASS, some of the early questions we had were, should I do a transplant? And this chart shows you from the blue being better than the red that yes, stem cell transplant still has an amazing place in myeloma, and it's important. It's important to have in your armamentarium. In addition, when 10 drugs get approved, the question you're asking yourself is, wait, should I just be on 2 or should I be on 3? Eventually, is it going to be 4 that I get started on? And again, the COMPASS study with the blue and the green being triplets showed us, yes, there's a real advantage to being on 3 drugs. And then we all wonder, all of us wonder, because this does change sometimes. Am I high risk or am I not? And what does that mean for me? Should I be more scared? Should I not? Or sometimes high risk means we know your mutation, we could probably find a drug for you. So it's not always a negative, but it is scary, and we get that. But we don't ever stop with the questions we've answered. We always move forward and go, what questions do we think you have today? And that is why you're here, and it's why you have iPads, because we think we know, but we need you to tell us. We need to listen. We think the questions that people have today are, if we all look different, if our genomes all look different, why are we all started on the same 3 drugs? Why? Should it always be like that? Or are we going to change that over time? And once I've been on treatment, how am I doing? What does it mean when somebody says remission? Is that complete remission? Is that stringent complete remission? Is that partial remission? And what am I doing with that? Does that mean I stay on maintenance therapy? Does it mean I stay on maintenance therapy for years or months? We have to answer that for you. You need to know that. I had the same question, by the way. And then finally, there are people in this room, and I know I met several at dinner last night, who wonder, does this disease run in my family? And if so, is there a way that we could ever prevent it from happening? So I have to say, those questions, they're not multiple myeloma questions. Those questions are the same questions that people have across every single cancer. So when I did get a phone call from the Dean of Harvard Business School, Robert Kraft and Eric Lander, who runs the Broad Institute, saying, we just got a $20 million endowment. There's probably more that will be coming in. And we need somebody to run precision medicine because Robert Kraft lost his wife to ovarian cancer. Her genome had been sequenced. They couldn't find her a drug fast enough. And he felt that there was a missing link between business and science. So he gave the money to the business school to work with groups like the Broad to make a difference across all cancers. And his focus is, I want a team that's going across all cancers and sharing absolute best practices. And I have to say, I don't know a lot about football, but I do know this man is hugely passionate about cancer on behalf of his wife, Myra. So I went up there and started writing the business plan with him and for him. And the focus that we had was, how do you advance the models of precision medicine? And I love this because it was the same space that the MMRF was in. And once you do that and you see how partnership models come together, and how you can get foundations to work with academic centers and community centers and diagnostic companies. If you're the leaders, and we're good at this at the MMRF, of bringing those models together, where does the value come into play? Where is the value? And based on that, where is commercialization? Are there new ideas that need to be funded? It could be in digital health. It could be in a diagnostic. It could be in something that one of our scientists is doing that they really need funding because it's a really creative model. And I'll pick on Irene here for a second because I think she's a really good example of this, because I talk about high risk, but there's also this whole issue about looking at smoldering patients in myeloma, and could you stop MGUS from smoldering to active? And if you were able to do that and bring everybody together, that's the kind of stuff that you say, is there really a way that we could prevent cancer? That's what Robert Kraft cares about. And he wants to know what kind of companies need to evolve to help us get those kinds of things done. And I love him for that. I think it's a very important idea. And what's great about the Kraft program is, I don't know why, but we have been able to convene the absolute best people to work with us. So when we said that the model has to be driven by data, we reached out to the people that we thought were the mavericks in data and precision medicine. So we did about 50 to 60 calls. And then the people that we invited into the room were the people that were focused on data, from the Obama initiative with Kathy Hudson, the Biden initiative, prostate, obviously MMRF, metastatic breast. But then we brought in every leader that was disruptive, from the chief data officer at the Broad to Dana-Farber, to TGen, to Sage, Flatiron. We brought them in, and then we brought in the technology experts like Illumina. Now, I can't tell you that I'm a huge data expert, but we can pick people really well. And we started to integrate everybody to work together across all sectors. And then we brought in a consulting firm, as only an HBS model would do. We created a 2x2 matrix, which was, who has the greatest, largest, most important data set, and is it in the public domain? And I was not allowed to touch this, right? But I do know, and most of you know, you typically want to be in the upper right quadrant. And guess what the MMRF was? And guess what the focus of the Kraft Initiative ended up becoming? I told people the entire time I was running the MMRF, I thought we were really good, but I had never been able to invest enough money to a third-party consulting firm to actually look and say, are we really that good? And it turned out, when you're looking at the best data set, the MMRF has the second largest cancer data set in the country. When you're that good at that data and you're putting it in the public domain, you need everybody to move there with you. And they can be government programs, they can be academic centers, it can be community centers. We need people to move. And that's what the Kraft Initiative is doing. We're all very good friends now. And it also gave people like Paul a very good understanding of, now I've met these people. I've been sitting with them for 2 days up on the business school campus with faculty, kind of engaging everybody. And now you'll hear today that when it comes to the data side, the MMRF has moved forward. We'll be sharing our data with the Genomic Data Commons, still quiet, but and we're really making that data set more robust for the government. But we wanted to. We want every NCI and NIH person knowing our data is out there. And then we're also working on a really innovative program now with Dana-Farber, where they have a great data set, we have a great data set, and we're putting it out to the crowd through Top Coder so that we can actually understand, by having people that don't even necessarily look at cancer, how do we identify new mutations? So all of these things start to move forward under funding from the Kraft program that can help leverage every cancer and share best practices. Now, we up there don't rest on our laurels and say, well, we're going to wait for academia and everybody to share their data. We know it takes time. And every single person that was with us that day said, you know what about going direct to the consumer? In 3 to 5 years, will we all be talking directly to our patients and consumers? And the truth is, we will. And in healthcare, we're not as good at it as we would like. So an example would be, you would think that every patient would be aware of the MMRF and every patient would have engaged with us, meaning given us their email or their phone number. Like, in my mind, why would you not, right? But many don't, for whatever reason. And so we have to understand how you drive engagement, adoption, retention of your patients so they'll continually give you data. Well, I can promise you, nobody does this better than Uber or Rent the Runway or Amazon. And we all know, as people that go on and use these tools, that every time they make your life easier and they give you value because you gave them data, you give them more data, they get more value, and it goes into a cycle. So on October 21st, we actually have the CEO of Rent the Runway with the head of Uber, along with Amazon, along with the CVS loyalty program, the Starwood loyalty program, sitting down with IBM Watson, patients like me, the MMRF, the Prostate Cancer Foundation, and we're getting them all to play so that we learn best practices from each other, but the underlying current is also can we start to create a cancer movement? Can we start to educate cancer patients on why they have to give their data, that we are on the critical path of research? It's our tissue, it's our data, we have to share it. So as we move forward, the MMRF does not change its model. Like, we evolve the model. It emerges over time. And that's why when I started this, I said there's so much progress happening. But in order for us to keep progress happening, we need the patients to help us. So this is a critical part of where we'll be investing over the next 3 to 5 years, is making sure we have such high awareness, such strong marketing, that every patient is engaged, every patient's giving their data, every academic center is sharing, and we're putting that all together in a way that we get more insights and we find you cures much, much faster. And why do we do this? And why am I still doing this? And why do I come into the MMRF office all the time and drive up to Boston and do this as well? It's because I know the importance across all cancers. My grandfather had multiple myeloma. My grandmother had breast cancer. I have myeloma. My identical twin sister has breast cancer, stage 3. My mother has melanoma. And that breaks my heart. My father died of kidney cancer. And so we all need to do better. And the issue that I face every day is I know how we can do better. And I'm living and breathing it every day. I've watched so many amazing ideas, especially here at the MMRF, but now even across all cancers. And I know we can do it better. I started everything that I did for a 1-year-old little girl and her brother. And now I look at her and I say, I know we can prevent myeloma from happening. I know the group in this room can do this. We have a purpose here. It's a purpose that we all have together. Let's never, ever make the next generation of our children endure the treatments and the processes that we've all endured. I beg you to stay with us and to stay with the people in this room that are so darn smart. And I thank you because you got us this far. So stay beside us for the rest of the way. Thank you.